Sometimes when applying for a new job, we are sure that everything we need is just the opportunity of an interview, because we're quite certain that in this opportunity, we can convince everyone that we're the right fit. Nevertheless, to land this interview isn't so easy, and many applications get rejected. At the end, only one person is going to get hired. So, how can we make sure that our application is going to end up in an interview? I'm going to be sincere. We can't be sure about it. But in this video, I'm going to do something that nobody out there is doing, which is I'm going to give you insights about how applications are selected. And through these insights, tips on how you can improve your application in order to increase your chances of landing an interview. Stay tuned. Hello, my fellow global citizens. How are you all doing? If you don't know me, my name is Marcus Hanchik, and on this channel, we talk about everything regarding global citizenship and building up an international career. As I said earlier, this video is about putting on the recruiter glasses and taking their perspective as we are analyzing different applications and how some end up in an invitation for a job interview, some end up in a talent pool, and some end up as rejection. So how this all works is going to be a dive in that we're going to do in 1 minute. Before that, I must urge you to do something for me. And it's completely free. You just click on the subscribe button right down here somewhere. And as you do that, also hit up the notifications bell button so that you're informed about every video that's coming out on this channel. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, where you're also going to get some tips about global citizenship, building up an international career, filing your job applications, and so on. So before we dive right into this recruiter's perspective, I must do a disclaimer, and it's pretty much valid for this whole channel. And that is, I'm not going to share any classified information from my employer. If you don't know, I work as a recruiter for a OEM in the automotive industry. But what I'm going to do is really change the perspective and talk common sense and make logical suppositions about how an application process works at big companies, especially if you have 3 or 4 digit number of applicants for one position. The first step is to really understand where the recruiters are coming from, and it is from a place with a lot of responsibility. The responsibilities a recruiter have may be divided in 3 main categories. The social category. We live in a world where, unfortunately, there are various unconscious bias. These biases may influence decisions based on things that aren't really conscious, as the name says. So they may be gender, origin, so ethnicity, or mainly a countless number of aspects that we can't really control. It may also be a photo that's inside of an application. This social responsibility really means that we actively make our decisions as neutral and transparent as possible in order to eliminate all of those biases. The second responsibility we have is towards the candidate. It is known that when a candidate applies for a position, he or she really dreams about it, or at least creates expectations of landing this job in the future. The responsibility is to really give the amount of effort and time necessary to really consider the candidate and to understand that behind each and every application, there is a person. A third point is towards the company, because when we're filling a position, it's probably being vacant for some time. There's a certain need for this person to be there, and it costs money not to have them there. Also, if someone is hired, then they have to learn the position, and those are all costs that are going to come through time. There needs to be a correct fit, so that the candidate that gets hired feels well within their team, that the team accepts the candidate and that this relationship is also profitable and good for the company. Having in mind that we have this triple responsibility towards the society, towards the candidate, and towards the organization, we can talk about how applications are selected and how people end up being invited for a job interview or not. Even there, we have to divide it in two main situations. So when we have a low number of applicants, so let's say 5, 10, or 15, there's probably time to look deeply into each and every one application and to really decide which candidates we're going to invite or not, or maybe we can even have the luxury of inviting every candidate in order to make the decision. But that's not always the case. Especially at big companies, we get applications from various candidates that sometimes exceeds the 3 digits, and sometimes it may even exceed the 4-digit mark. If you have 1 or 2 recruiters taking care of this position, it is very time-consuming to look thoroughly through each and every one application, and it's almost impossible. In order to invite those people for an interview afterwards, it would also be hard to interview everyone. So there needs to be criteria to be defined. Also, we cannot consider that the memory of this person can handle 100 different people or 300 different people at one time and remember, oh, this one was better or that one was better. So criteria need to be defined. As soon as you have your criteria defined, you generate a level of transparency that's good for all parties. It's good for society because you separate the candidate and his views, his name, his age, and everything about that from the position, and you actually look at those hard facts. It's good for the candidate through the transparency, and it's also good for the company because you're really hiring the best people based on those hard facts that were predefined. So once you define the criteria, you select a small group, 1 to 3, to look through every candidate. And this is especially important if you have a high number of applicants. As soon as you have this number of small criteria, you look through every candidate and notate which are the best 50 or the best 60, the best 30 from this group of applicants, so that you have this small bunch that you can look through every aspect of the other hard criteria and see which ones are the ones who meet everything and which ones are the ones who may not quite meet everything but are quite interesting, and which ones do not come into question. As we've learned, the selection process for the applicants who are going to land this job interview and are going to have the chance to convince everyone they're the right fit works through a set of criteria that kind of filter candidates and help people really have an overview of the best candidates through this set of criteria. Once we know that, we can work on our applications using this information. And we can do so through a series of measures that we can take. The first one are keywords, and they are really key in order to solving the problem. When you have the job posting, you will see lots of requirements for your position. So let's consider you have a data science position where you see data science degree or data science experience, blah, blah. Only that. So when the recruiter is going to look into your application, he who doesn't have any knowledge of this specific area might just be looking for the word data science. And as you see lots of words such as pandas, Python, R, I don't know, NumPy, and so on, he gets confused, doesn't find data science, and moves on to the next candidate. I don't think that this example is really real, and none of my colleagues would do that. They would dig a little bit deeper. But I wanted to give you the extreme example just to illustrate that some keywords are important and that we should also consider the job application and the things that are inside. The same applies if the job application says you should have knowledge in programming language XYZ, and this programming language isn't to be found in your application. Even though you have knowledge of it, it is pretty important that it is there if it's in the job description. This is the very first point, kind of making your application stupidity safe for really anyone who's looking at it and looking at the job description to kind of say, this is a match, without necessarily having to have technical knowledge about this area. Point 2 would be, if you're applying for a big company and this big company has an application system where you can upload various documents, fill out various fields, and so on, my tip would be to fill out every field and upload every document you can on this platform, because those documents might help you out. If you do everything like this, you facilitate the work of the recruiter afterwards to actually find some of the information that he's looking for in order to do those filterings. And if there is somebody who has a very, very, very good profile, has every document, and where everything is very understandable, and there's another application where he can't really find any information in any document or in the application itself, and he can only choose one person, he's probably going to choose the person who has everything. Be proactive and already provide it. It's only going to help you. Don't consider that the recruiters are always going to have time to come back to you and ask for documents. Always when I can, I do so, but it's not always possible. So now we've talked about 2 things that are gonna help us out go further in the application process or in the hiring process. The first one being keywords, as they're gonna help the recruiter know that we have the skills that are necessary for the job. The second one being uploading all of the documents, filling out all of the information that I can fill, and so on, because those things might be the things that differentiate me from another candidate still in this hard criteria field. The third thing are how to stand out. And this may happen in a lot of different ways, and you can really be creative in this section. So this may happen through your education, so maybe you have a PhD. This may happen through language skills that may not be required for the position, but might come in handy through the job. This might also happen through a website, through a portfolio.
So I'm here in the train, and a new aspect that is quite important for succeeding in your application just popped into my mind, and I just wanted to add it to the video. It's important for the recruiter to find the right fit for the company, and that it's also the right fit for the candidate, because it's not interesting at all that the candidate leaves the company after a certain amount of time. It is a big investment after all. Try to contact the recruiter and stress out your motivation for this position and why you're the correct fit. And in order to do that, really reflect about your strengths, weaknesses, how your background adds up to the company, and make it in a way that really stands out from the crowd. So I had an application for one position where the person really made out an entire website just for this position, or where they've done a video, or I don't know, really small things that show interest. The same goes for a cover letter. Not every application has a cover letter, but writing one and really putting the points that explain how this position is a perfect fit for you is always a positive point, because it isn't always clear through a resume. Being on the recruiter's radar and stressing out your motivation and why you're a good fit is always a good thing, because we want to find someone for the position, and giving us material and, I don't know, kind of explaining why it's important is always a good thing. One more point towards the last point. Be sure that what you're saying when you're contacting the recruiter is actually meaningful and it's not only messages, because we get many, many messages, and if it hasn't any meaning, just don't do it, because it's more annoying than really helping. So yeah, make sure that what you're saying has kind of a meaning.
Those are some things and aspects where you can be creative. Even your CV, the format in which your CV is sent can be quite creative and can help it stand out as well. But please always keep in mind that the information is easily readable, easily accessible. Considering all of that, we have 3 main points in order to help our application to come further in the process and to higher up our chances of a job interview. If you liked this video and you want more content like this, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment telling me what you thought about all of this, follow me on Instagram, and if you have any suggestions for further content, any questions, don't be shy. Just ask, write, communicate. I'll be always happy to answer. See you around.